So we can open the session for the question answer. If anybody has got anything particular to be asked.
Hi, my question is addressed to Mr. James Kohn, and it's regarding the Northeast Asia Trade Tower you're talking about. What I realized from the perspective that I saw was that the plan changed from trapezoidal to pentagonal and then triangle at the top. There's some complexities about it that I wanted to raise a few questions about. Was now, since there's an apparent lean because of the change in plan and the elevation, would there also be a lean in a column? Would they also be slanting in a way, or would they be straight? Because if they were slanting, then there would be lateral loads in the slabs to start off with. And other than that, also the elevator shaft, would that be straight or would it be slanting? Because that would obviously increase the cost of an elevator by a large amount. And how functional would it be having different plans completely changing by that amount in a building?
The question is about the changing of the plan of the tower and how structurally and in planning terms that makes sense. The structure of the tower is interesting in that as the plan transforms from quadrilateral to triangle, even though it leans forward as the front nose of that triangle is a sort of prow that's 30 feet out in front of the base of the building. So if you look up, you'll be overshadowed by 30 feet, which is a good lean. The center of gravity of that triangle is actually back from the prow. So if you calculate the center of the area or the center of gravity of each of the floor plates, it's actually a straight line because of the transformation of the shape. It's carving away at the front as it leans towards the front. So structurally, it's quite well balanced. And Arup has done a good job of making sense of the form and guiding us in a collaborative way into that solution. David Scott was the lead structural engineer. In terms of planning, yes, the core is straight, and there is a morphing of the available area. But because the building changes from its lower use of office, which demands a pretty regular quarter perimeter, and then up above, because they're serviced apartments above the 30th floor, we're able to play a little bit with the configuration of the plan within so that it's still very regular and very usable. So it's a little bit of a trick of giving the appearance of something that's highly dynamic and changing, and yet what in the interior is quite rational from a structural, material, and commercial point of view.
I'm Pratap Padode from Construction World. The question is from Mr. James. I think when your presentation you gave about those 4 towers, which were all connected by a train network, and you said that the challenge really lies beneath. How would you say that, in terms of integration, I think town planning and a developer's perspective, let's say somebody is planning a huge tower and then he needs connectivity into the public transport system. I mean, does the permission for doing such a building come from the town planning, authority, and therefore they already account for this kind of a connectivity that is needed? So, what kind of a connectivity is needed in order to reach that objective?
Well, some of my partners in the audience could answer more specifically the anecdotes of exactly how the developers work, our design, and the public infrastructure programs came together. But in a general sense, as you probably know, in Hong Kong, there is a particularly sort of harmonious cooperation or efficient moving together of public infrastructure, public planning, the policy of the territory with what the private developer ends up doing on any particular site. So the rail line obviously was planned first, and the building came afterwards, although the high-speed rail link is not yet actually built. But the planning is clear enough, is determined enough that it's known that it will happen. So I think there's a social and governmental structure in Hong Kong as a special region of China, but then moving north into Shenzhen and beyond, from our experience working in Shanghai and Beijing and Shenzhen and other places, of tremendous predictability that we are, for example, now planning a city beginning to plan a city in Wuxi, which will be, the purpose of it will be because the high-speed, super fast train between Shanghai and Beijing will pass through Wuxi. Well, the train line is not operational yet, and nor are the buildings, the stations and so on, but the city is being planned nonetheless. So, maybe in comparison to some of the challenges here in Mumbai of the sort of super organic, democratic society where there's so many voices that add their intricate considerations to the discussion of the public realm and how the big building links to it. In China, it's sort of the opposite because you have a highly planned, command society, and if $100 billion are being pumped into a rail system, well, then the developers understand how they are to plug into that. So it can happen very quickly, very efficiently, and it's just a sort of a different end of the paradigm of social and governmental practice.
We'll take, I think, one last question.
Hi, I'm Milind Changani from BN Shah. My first part of the question is for Mr. Das. You see, Mumbai is a very fast-moving developing city, and considering that we don't have a good master plan in place for infrastructure and amenity use spaces, can Mumbai stop development for want of that? And say for the second part, say in case for Mr. Sudhir, because we can't really stop development because of a lot of dilapidated buildings existing in Mumbai, what kind of amenity ratios does he plan in the high-rise residential towers that he normally plans for?
The first question, see, my experience with waiting for any master plan has been a disaster. Forget about Mumbai for a little while. Take a city like Delhi, which did not have these pressures. It has pressures of different kind and much less. Now, by the time Delhi master plan came out at any stage, the places which are identified as district centers or work centers had already developed in the informal market and through makeshift arrangements. So by the time it was notified and it became a legal document, it already followed developments that had happened on the ground, and it had nothing more to bring in. I think what Mumbai is required in Mumbai is a kind of structure plan, infrastructure plan, that will allow specific areas to be, at the point I was making, that let's look at it as many cities consisting of many pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. Now, if a certain community has come forward with a very clear idea of reorganizing lives of people in that area, be it 20 acres or 50 acres, one has to ensure that the infrastructure is available to do that, and that is the responsibility, that has to be mediated. It is not, it's difficult to say it's a government responsibility or it's a private responsibility. I think it is what we need is more of a mediation and meeting point between government and the communities or the developers or the promoters. And within that, I think there should be an inbuilt responsibility on the part of the promoters to give something back to the city. It is that perspective that will make the government move, and not a one-way kind of claim or demand from a government. We are not like Amsterdam city, where even the ducks in the canals are counted and the census is kept. Whenever a new duckling is born, they have a record in the municipality. Our capacities are quite different.